If I could find a way to see your face again, if I could lose the boundaries of my mind.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and I have a very special show for you today. Visiting with us is the organization With Purpose, which is dedicated to inspiring today's youth and engaging their creativity through education about the realities of childhood cancer and the challenges to adequate treatment, support, and funding for pediatric research. Truly, With Purpose is part of the solution to this general lack of research funding for pediatrics in our medical research system today, especially for cancer, which is the leading cause of death in children with cancer. It's also one of the least funded areas of cancer research in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. What's the commonly heard excuse? There aren't enough of them to warrant the investment. Can you believe that? It's true. Intended or not, the bottom line for the medical research industry is money, and even when there's plenty of it, it's not saving lives. And so parents have been speaking out against this now for years, only to be met with resistance to a national conversation. But look out for today's youth. With Purpose invests in programs designed to empower youth both inside and outside of the classroom in raising funds for research and in advocating for their peers with cancer. With Purpose believes that in order to empower the next generation of game changers, we need to educate them about the realities of childhood cancer, and the best place to start is the classroom. The goal isn't just to make youth knowledgeable about the barriers impeding the progress of new pediatric cancer treatments, but to make sure the knowledge and experience we give them now translates into something that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. This shining example of leadership and youth engagement came at a great cost to With Purpose's founder, Erin Benson. Her 2-year-old son, Sam Lee, was diagnosed with DIPG, the terminal brain cancer, with brain cancer being the leading cause of death in children with cancer. Though the family suffered the inevitable fate of witnessing his death, Erin maintains that he taught his parents about the reality of unconditional love, the privilege of having the ability to see a problem and make a change, and the path to happiness. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Erin Benson to the show today. Thank you, Erin, for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And so I also want to, because we're going to be speaking with our stars in a little bit after we've introduced the foundation, I want to quickly name them and thank them for being here. We have your star advocates, Catherine Thibault. We have Nicole Olson and Rachel Olson. Thank you, ladies, for joining us, and I can't wait to get to you. If you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly get background to your work that you're doing, and what better place than with Sam's mom. Again, thank you so much for being with us, Erin, and for sharing With Purpose. Can you tell us a little bit about what your life was like with Sam and the rest of your family before the diagnosis and what happened?
Sure. It's hard to remember the before, but I know that there was one. Me and my husband had Sam. We had Sam, he was 2 at the time he was diagnosed, and I was pregnant with twin girls. And, you know, we were looking forward to growing our family pretty tremendously. We were really excited about being a family of 5. We had moved into a new home to accommodate, you know, the growth, and, you know, we were just young and excited about what life offered. And, you know, we started noticing some things with Sam. He stopped wanting to walk. He was moody. He was clingy, but he was 2, and a lot had changed in our life in a very short period of time. You know, we had moved into a new home, and it was obvious that Mom was tired all the time, and that he had, you know, 2 sisters on the way. So we checked it up to sort of normal toddler stuff. Then I was hospitalized, and I had preeclampsia when I was pregnant with the twins. And the second day I was in the hospital, my husband was visiting and said, one of Sam's eyes isn't tracking. And the symptoms that we had seen sort of clicked into place. And I said, he needs an MRI. And that night we learned he had a tumor on his brainstem. And the next day it was given a name and a prognosis. And 10 days after that, I had the twins. So it was life-defining, obviously. Everything shifted in those moments where, it's so hard to explain what it's like to experience, the joyous birth of two people after learning that your baby is going to die too. So it's like life and death all at the same time.
Wow. Could you tell us just a bit about that diagnosis and prognosis and what it is, the DIPG brain cancer?
Mm-hmm. So DIPG is, you get a lot of terminology when you become a cancer parent. It's a diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. It's a, it's a tumor that attaches to the brainstem, so that renders it inoperable. It's infused with healthy tissue. So if a surgeon went in and tried to remove part of it and nicked something in your brainstem, you could lose the ability to breathe or to have a heartbeat, and those are vital, obviously, to life. So the standard treatment is radiation therapy, and 12 weeks of radiation therapy, and that's the only thing that's proven to have an impact at this point. And it buys you time, and the average amount of time that a child survives with the tumor post-diagnosis is 9 months.
Right.
So we thought we had a few months left with him. Yeah, and some of those months are awful, right? When your kid is going through treatment, they're close to death, right? So.
And I'll just let our listeners know that Erin and I were kind of sisters without knowing it. When I first contacted her and her organization, I didn't realize it was that her son had DIPG also, and it's a very isolating, terrifying experience. But then your little boy Sam himself, it seems, really helped set the tone for what it all meant and how you lived your lives from then on. Tell us about Sam.
Sure. I mean, I know two Sams, right? I know Sam as a baby, and then I know the Sam who dealt with, harder things than I've ever dealt with in my adult life. So, he was funny, and he was tenacious and independent, and he had a strong voice. He wanted to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it, and he was able to easily persuade people to join him in whatever activities they were. He was just so adorable. I mean, he was just like, the apple of our eye, right? He was so cute and had this big mop of curly red hair, and I don't know, a silly approach to life. He was really precocious and smart, and I don't know. I don't know what to say about him. He taught me so much about life. He was really good at loving me. I never wondered if Sam loved me. He found new ways of telling me how much he loved me every day. He would compare it to, things he understood, like outer space and rocket ships to the moon, and, as big as, his little mind could dream up. And he was tough, he did not complain through the horror of being treated for cancer, through losing sight and hearing, not completely, but a good bit. He had another disorder that made it difficult for him to walk. He had a limb length discrepancy. And so it's hard to walk when you have a limb length discrepancy and you can't see well and you can't really hear. But we never heard complaints from him. He just suffered through it all with grace And he did his best to make friends and interact with them in the ways that he could. So I remember really clearly, you know, the three girls that are with us today would, and they had siblings, right? And we lived in this cul-de-sac in Minnesota for a couple of years while Sam was with us. And they would be out riding their bikes, and Sam couldn't ride a bike. But he had a four-wheeler, right? And so he would take his four-wheeler and he'd ride up and down the driveways and around the circle, and just do this really normal thing with kids. He didn't say, I don't know how to ride a bike. I want to be able to ride a bike. Why can't I do this? You know, he just inserted himself in a way that made sense. And I was really proud of him for that, and proud of the kids that I met for accepting a kid who was different. And, you know, they could have easily turned away. It's scary. You know, it's scary to learn this little kid isn't going to make it and still befriend him. That's brave. That's brave. So I'm proud of the girls who are with us today too, for doing that.
And in finding out, in knowing that there was no solution for him, you know, and discovering how long the medical community's known about DIPG, how did that make you feel?
It's pretty shocking, honestly. It's still, I discuss it with, that, you know, especially for Sam's disease, for DIPG, there really has not been progress since the development of radiation therapy in the 50s. We haven't done better since then. And we can. I think, you know, that's the other thing is, I know that this country has the capability and frankly, the access to the funds necessary and the drive to actually do better for these kids. And if we just make them a priority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I was so moved, actually from your website, to see that that engagement of the other of these kids really pulling forward on the work. They really are the movement. They really are the program. That also Sam's insistence on happiness, and that really it's a choice, and our hope is still a choice, isn't it?
Well, hope means a lot of different things. You start to hope for different things when your kid is dying, right? So you hope that that the time that they have left is happy and that they have friends. You can't hope for them to survive when they have DIPG. You learn a lot about what hope means, you know, when you're looking down the barrel of a gun, right?
Yeah. And so did the With Purpose begin while he was still with us?
Yeah, so we had a long, what they like to call a honeymoon period with Sam, which I think is interesting terminology. But Sam lived a lot longer than 9 months. He lived for 2.5 years post-diagnosis. And about 9 months after he got done with treatment, the residual impacts, like health impacts of treatment, sort of, you know, they were wearing off to a certain extent, right? He wasn't as tired all the time. And we sort of hit this normal rhythm of life. Our girls were a little older, you know, they're 1, they could walk and kind of communicate, and we're eating normal food. We were sleeping a little more. And Sam was starting to make friends. And it was in that moment where we were able to take a breath and say, wait, why is there are no life-saving treatment options for him? And like many parents, you know, we started looking into the statistics, and they're pretty grim. 4% of national funding for new treatments in 30 years, no funding from pharmaceutical companies. And we thought, hey, this is something we can fix. And so like a lot of parents, we started a nonprofit to try to do our part and make sure this doesn't happen to other families. And I had no clue what I was doing. Still, maybe I don't. But what sort of happened naturally, we had all these ideas about what With Purpose would be and how it would operate and how we would raise money and where that money would go. But young people were very drawn to our organization from the start. so while I was hatching plans about corporate sponsorships and partnerships, young people were approaching me and asking like, hey, can we start our own chapter of With Purpose on our campus? I have this idea for an event, or, I want to get involved. And after Sam died, and so we did that. We fostered, we facilitated what they wanted to have happen, but we still envisioned what the organization was differently. And then, in March of 2016, Sam died, and I I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do With Purpose anymore. I wanted to be done. I didn't want to engage with it. This thing that took him away from us every day. And I was planning a way to make that announcement to the people who had supported us over the years. So at that point, With Purpose was maybe 18 months old, 2 years old. And that's when Rachel and Nicole and Catherine approached me. They're, Sam's friends, and said, we want to do something for With Purpose. We want to plan an event in his memory. And you don't say no to that. So I didn't. And I helped them, but they did it. I was a mess for a long time. And they planned this event, and we held it in the cul-de-sac that we lived in when we were with Sam. They branded it. They recruited sponsors. They got local media contacts. It was a fun run and carnival, and they raised $10,000 in one morning. Right? You guys were 10, 9, and 8, or 11, 9, and 8 at the time. I can't remember.
Well, Catherine, Catherine Thibault, I wanted to bring you in first, if that's okay. Again, to our audience here, and beginning with Purpose in 2015, it was young people that took up the cause and made the organization what it is today. It's because of Catherine Thibault, Nicole Olson, and Rachel Olson. And Catherine, I was wondering if you'd speak to us first, if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and Sam and what's inspired you the most.
Years old, and me and my friends, we loved to play with Sam, and we'd always just play with him every day. We tried to spend every moment that we could with him, but then when we learned that he had brain cancer, we wanted to do something to help him, so and then we just loved to play with him, and we tried to help him, and so we didn't have to think that he had cancer.
And so both of you all of you can pipe in, whenever you want. I wanted to ask you, Catherine, was it, what was your experience? I know how old are you? Tell me first of all. You're 10 now? Okay, so at the time, how old were you then?
I think I was 8.
You were 8 years old. Wow. So you were in 3rd grade?
And you're 10 now. She was like 7, gonna be 8.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so, along with your friends here, you all 3 got together and approached Erin. Is that how it began for you? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I think that's how it started.
What made you guys have the idea to do a fun run and a carnival?
Well, okay, my mom and I went on walks and stuff, and we were talking about it. Like one day I was like, I want to do a car wash, and she's like, well, I've been doing multiple, so I myself have been doing runs, just fun runs and stuff.
Hey, Rachel, come a little closer to your mic, if you could. There you go. Make sure you're close in so we can hear you really well, and speak up just a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Yes.
Okay. So my mom and I went on walks a lot, and I did some fun runs and some triathlons for cancer and for Sam. And So then my mom and I were thinking, and we're like, well, why don't we do a run, like a with purpose run for Sam after he passed away? And then we approached Erin like as like a threesome, Nicole, Catherine, and I, because I got Nicole, Catherine in it, and my mom kind of was pushed out, and yeah.
Awesome. So what were some of the first steps you took? Yeah, go ahead. Either of you, please.
First steps? Well, I think, well, first we talked to Erin. She said yes. So then we tried to get a park. We tried French Park, and they were just kind of being like, I don't know, it just wasn't working with us. So then that was like the month or two before the run. So then we had to kind of scramble, and we're like, well, why don't we just do it in the cul-de-sac? Like that's the best spot to do it.
Because Sam loves to play
Because
there.
Sam liked to play there, and we just grew up there. That's how we met them, and yeah.
So Nicole, did you play with Sam in the same cul-de-sac? Were you and Rachel
Yes.
there too? Okay.
Yes, I did.
And what did you do with Sam when you played with him?
Well, one of the stuff he really liked to do with us is he would put little swim goggles on, and he would run around our yard and scream like a monster. He liked doing that. He would roll ball down. I can't say it. He would roll
got it.
balls down the hill, and then he would make us run and go pick them up. And we went on his four-wheeler. We would watch Curious George with him. That was one of his favorite shows.
He was a big Curious George fan. Perhaps the biggest Curious George fan.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us about, there's a Barbie behind you with blue hair.
Yeah. That's my, I don't know, fifth cousin playing with Barbies.
She was waving at you guys.
Oh, hello. All
So
right.
guys, talk about all the stuff that you had to do to get the event planned. Like what was all involved? Yeah, beyond getting the park, right, which we couldn't do because Erin didn't know how to do any of that work and get a permit and insurance at the time. But like all the other things that were involved in making the event successful.
Well, we had to raise money to be able to try to get a park and get like water and food so we could make this race happen. And we started doing lemonade stands for With Purpose, and we raised a lot of money. And so we just had to get all the money together so we could pay for the stuff that we had to do at the race.
Yeah, we also worked really hard on getting sponsors. So
Yeah, we'd bike around to places and go talk to them. Sometimes we'd drive.
yep, we bring packets for them, and we say like, hey, this is With Purpose. If you want to this is With Purpose. We're doing a fun run for them. If you want to help, then donate. And so they'd give us like gift cards. Some people would give us like coffee. And the gift cards, well, so we did a raffle with the gift cards, and that raised like $200 or something like that. We got like a lot of them, but that was kind of the hardest part. Another thing that we did was make posters.
Yeah, we had to make posters for like naming the carnival games that we had, and for the sponsors. So
Yeah,
Pencils and markers.
the carnival was based off, so like, you know how we do like neighborhood night out? Our neighborhood night out was us making a carnival for the neighbors and stuff.
There's
So
a bunch of like homemade games.
yeah, so then we just decided to like bring that onto the fun run, and that was always a huge success too. We started out as it like being free, and then we started doing tickets and stuff, and it's just, that's grown as much as the fun run has. Some people just come for the games too, so that's a bigger part of it as the actual run is.
So did you recently have another fun run, just very recently, or is that the main event that you're talking about now, the one that you just had? Wasn't there?
Oh, that's the main event that I'm talking about.
That's the main event.
Yeah, so we do like a fun run, like the fun run, then the 5K, and then there's a carnival after with games and prizes. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So this was our third year, Janet, executing this event. The first year, you know, we had it in the neighborhood. We had about 30 runners. The carnival games were all homemade by the girls. They were awesome. You know, all the signage, all the branding they did. They got some community news outlets, right? Like really local, small news coverage, both in the paper, in print, and on TV. And then this year we really invested in it and tried to help grow it, right? So this year we had 150 runners. We had like a real carnival after the game with one of our sponsors gave us a bunch of real carnival games to use, and they raised, how much did you guys raise this year?
$40,000.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, kid, all of you, think about this question. When grown-ups say they can't raise money or make a difference, what would you tell them?
Wait, us or the adults?
Yeah, what would you tell them? What would you tell the adults when they say, oh, I can't raise money, I can't?
Say, it only takes like, I don't even know.
Get some kids to help you, maybe.
Yeah.
Put the kids in charge.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I am overwhelmed with what you have done. It's amazing. There are some people that work for 5 years and can't raise that kind of money. I've witnessed that. Okay, so we are going to come right back to your story. I just want to let you know we're past halftime now in the show, and I have an advocacy report for you and our listeners, so you're aware of some of the pieces of legislation that right now need everybody's support in the country, okay? So here we go. If I can find my spot here. Here we are. All right, so after there's been a lot of phone calls, Hill Days for the past couple of years, nationwide letter writing campaigns, and other hard work, childhood cancer advocates can be proud of the signing into law of the STAR Act. That was in June, which I'll go into in a moment. But first, here's some news from St. Baldrick's Foundation, okay? The Children's Program of All-Inclusive Coordinated Care, or CHPAC, okay, so this is on July 27th, the co-chairs of the Congressional Cancer Caucus, Representatives Michael McCall of Texas, Jackie Spear of California, G.K. Butterfield of North Carolina, and Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania, along with Representative Diana DeGette of Colorado, introduced a bipartisan bill that's both Democrats and Republicans that provides a full range of medical services to families of kids with life-limiting illnesses. CHPAC would allow the family of every child who qualifies for Medicaid to receive a specialized care plan that encompasses palliative care, counseling, respite, expressive therapy, and bereavement services. We are excited to see these important issues being addressed by our Hill champions, and that's from the St. Baldrick's Foundation. Now, the Childhood Cancer Survivorship, Treatment, Access, and Research Act, or the STAR Act, was signed into law on June 5th, 2018. It's the most comprehensive childhood cancer legislation to date, designating several urgently needed programs for survivors, access to treatments, and childhood cancer research. The challenge now is appropriations. Okay, the Alliance for Childhood Cancer is urging its individual and organizational members to write to Senators Blunt and Murray on the Health Subcommittee for Appropriations that the $30 million necessary for these programs to be implemented is appropriated. Now, I'm jumping in here to warn you and give you a little history, okay? The precursor to the STAR Act was an excellent bill called the Carolyn Price Walker Childhood Cancer Act, signed into law by President Bush way back in 2008. Okay, it never had its allocations approved, and it was around the same lines of 30 million. And there were some other provisions they had as well, such as the Government Accountability Office looking into tracking the funds and seeing why so little was going to childhood cancer research. It was a very good bill. There was also a 2013 reauthorization of that act because they were trying to get it reinstated and then see if they could get allocation, get the money again, but that didn't work out either. Okay, so this, all the improvements in the reauthorization are echoed in the current STAR Act, with much more. They've put even more things into it. The Alliance for Childhood Cancer has a campaign right now encouraging people across the country to support the allocations or to support getting the money for STAR. Now, despite the joy, of course, of it's finally being signed into law, they've worked on this the last 3 or 4 years, okay? And people have worked hard across the country, okay, for funding. It's really right now at the mercy of our current Congress, which the functionality of which, of course, we're praying for. Constituent voices could not be more important, okay? The same goes for continuing legislation for the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act, which also needs support. This urgently needed program is in continuing need of your support. It's called HR 2008, that's the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act. Tell your congressman or congresswoman to support it. Last but not least, this is something we need to know, is a people's bill. It's a populist bill, it's an HRES. It only needs to pass in the House of Representatives, okay? It's a simple awareness resolution, HRES 69, but urgently needed national awareness for the lack of research funding for our kids. And this is about DIPG. DIPG is used as an ambassador for childhood cancer in this bill. No parent or no family should hear that there are no solutions for a death prognosis for their child after decades of clinical observation, because the numbers of annually affected children isn't worth the investment. No one should hear that in the United States of America, right, guys? But DIPG parents learn this daily. And DIPG children die daily in the United States, a terrible death where the child retains full cognitive ability during his or her excruciating decline and death, while the family watches on, helpless to save that child. Most of these parents hear that it's just so rare, very rare brain tumor, but when they discover brain cancer is the leading cause of death in children with cancer, and that DIPG is responsible for the majority of those deaths, and the second most common pediatric brain tumor, they're beyond aghast. Some psychologically implode, some undergo impossible depression, many get furious, and rightly so. In our current medical research system, saving lives is obviously not a priority, not in the experience of these people. So, inspired by the terrible example of DIPG, HRES 69, the National DIPG Awareness Resolution, shares important childhood cancer and child brain cancer statistics and simply asks that pediatric and high-risk cancers, high mortality rate cancers, be given greater consideration in the research grant process with our government funds, right? And also in the private sector. It's not like the emergency room where the vulnerable and the dying are attended to first. Many advocates feel strongly that our human values ought to be better reflected in the way we fund medical research in the wealthiest and most technologically advanced country today. It also designates May 17th as DIPG Awareness Day and May as Brain Tumor Awareness Month. It was first introduced to Congress the day after the Moonshot Initiative. And don't know if you kids remember the Moonshot Initiative. So we were calling it at that point Moonshot for Kids. Neil Armstrong's daughter died of DIPG in 1962. And as we heard Erin her testament today, the same methods of radiation and palliative care are standard. In 2018, 31 states have supported a DIPG Awareness Day, giving us ample evidence for national desire. So please visit hres69.org for more information, or just call your representative in Congress and ask them to sign the bill and support a House vote. We need a House vote before the end of this session of Congress, or we have to start all over again. So thank you for listening. Thank you. One of the reasons why this awareness resolution is so important is when people realize what's going on with pediatric cancer and how it's neglected, it'll be easier to get the money for these bills that we've worked so hard to get in Congress right now. That's one of our hopes. At any rate, now I want to go back to our conversation with our awesome guests with Purpose Foundation, Erin Benson, and our star kids. You are Childhood Cancer Talk Radio's hero for September 2018. Catherine Thibault, Nicole Olson, and Rachel Olson. They've raised $40,000 for their cause. With Purpose is a unique youth engagement organization that promotes kids helping kids. And our youth today actually has a stronger pull, I think, in the media and in the public arena. You guys bring the most hope for change in our society today. You are less, what do I want to say? Most of us old cronies out here have become cynical and think that just because that's the way it is, it's never going to change. And you guys come along and say, we're going to change this. So anyway, I want to go back to your experience with the fundraiser and your success. And I want to ask you, what are your next ideas for projects to do?
So, like, with purpose?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've been making, like, we made a music video once. Like, we want to do, like, where, like, we make videos and then we, like, post them and, like, give them, like, awareness and stuff, like, so people know about it. And then we were making up, we made up this thing called, like, Movie with Purpose, where, like, every kid, like, makes a video and we rent out a movie theater and we watch them and we ask for tickets and stuff. Yeah, that's our next. That's kind of, yeah.
Cool.
They always have big ideas. The only problem with Purpose has is the time and like energy it takes to support all of them, which is a really good problem to have, right? And I hope we're going to do the fun run again next year.
Yeah.
In total, on the first 3 years of the event, you guys have raised more than $60,000. And this year they got featured on Minnesota statewide radio and television, the KARE 11 news broadcast. So their event is starting to make big waves, and people are really starting to see the power that young people have to make change. And it's hard to make excuses. I tell people this, and the girls know this all the time. The event, working with them after Sam died on their idea, just not being able to say no, inspired me to keep doing With Purpose and to see the true impact that With Purpose could have. I think the best investment that we can make as an organization is in the next generation of advocates. If they're aware at a young age and already working towards a solution, I really think it's their generation that will change the story, the stagnant process of pediatric cancer treatment in the country. And so that's how we're spending our time. And that was really inspired by these 3 very young girls at the time who just asked me if they could help. And that's powerful. So
I have a question for all of you. And you can, in whatever order you like, what do you think that Sam would say about what you're doing now?
I think he'd be proud of what we're doing and happy because we're trying to raise money With Purpose, and so no other kids had to go through what he had to go through. So yeah, I think he'd be happy and excited if he could be a part of our run.
I think he would. Oh,
No, you can go.
no, you go.
Okay. I think he would be proud and happy and just proud of us for what we're doing.
Absolutely.
I think he'd feel, I think he'd like it a lot because, like, he is getting, like, praise, like, for his just being. That's just what I think.
Absolutely. How about you, Catherine? Or you already answered me?
Oh, she already
Yeah.
did, yeah.
I can't hear enough. And so what have you learned, do you think, with all the wonderful things with that Sam just being who he is?
I learned to take every moment, like, how it is. Just, like, just go one moment at a time. Don't think, like, in the future, in the past. Just be present to the moment. Yeah.
Wow. So many kids don't get that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so important that we value that more in our society. Everything's kind of quick, and get this, get that. But it's just those little moments, those times when you make each other laugh, or maybe you were feeling bad about something and all of a sudden you see it in a different way. those are precious. Those are some of the most precious moments in life, and what you're doing is honoring that. And I can't thank you all enough. I have I've talked a little bit about this with Erin behind the scenes, but our DIPG advocacy group just began last September, October, and we had our first trip to Washington last December. And DIPG advocacy group has started by supporting the resolution that I mentioned at halftime.
Yeah.
And we are looking for a youth team who might be willing to help us plan our program that we'll share with other kids across the country. Just a simple message, a letter writing campaign to our House Speaker and our House Majority Leader, and encouraging kids like you to become engaged and to ask for change and to ask our representatives in Congress to help us. Would you be interested in spearheading that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. We'll make a video. It won't have to be anything that will take too much of your time, but I've been looking for heroes willing to be the faces for it. And it's my hope to honor Sam and more kids like him we watch them perish every day. And so what would you tell other kids about what you're doing now? Nicole.
Like what we're doing for the fun run?
Yeah.
I would tell them, like, I don't know.
How would you encourage them anyway to get involved? Because advocacy isn't for everyone, and not everyone is experienced, of course, having a friend with cancer. Many have kind of have it maybe in their experience distantly, but not a lot of kids have had like their best friend. Like I'll just let you know, one of the congressmen that I announced earlier who's supporting that bill for kids with seriously life-threatening disease, he's one of our champions for children with cancer because he lost his best friend when he was like 8 years old. And so he's one of the leaders of the caucus for childhood cancer. And so he has an obvious draw to it, and you have an obvious draw to it because of Sam. But what would you encourage other kids across the country? Would you encourage them to learn about how, God forbid, a friend of theirs or even they get cancer, that there's so few solutions for them? What would you say to encourage them? Do you think it's really possible to make a difference?
I definitely think it is possible to make a difference. Even the smallest things can make a difference in life.
Even just a smile and an "I care about you," right? Just including the way you included Sam in your activities without even questioning it, right?
To play off Nicole, I think it's important. Like what I would tell other kids is just, if you want to make a difference, start by doing something small, like doing a lemonade stand for kids with cancer, and then donating it to like organizations like With Purpose and Jack's Angels. And then if they feel like they want to do something bigger and they want to step it up, then then do a fun run, and then yeah.
Great.
Or even like you said, just a smile and an "I care about you" or an "I love you" makes a difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, and this is just something I want to share with you guys, because with your creating change like this and really creating hope for other kids that they can make a difference, people need to realize also that a sort of cynicism has been growing in our country the last couple of decades since you've come into the world, and that's that, you know, our communication with our representatives in government has become, people sometimes become too cynical that they won't even reach out and let them know what they think. But that's what we need to do. And I think you're really in a unique position right now to begin forging new ways of communicating with them or insisting upon it so that we can renew that great thing that's our American democracy. They're representing us, and if we don't let them know what we think and feel, how are they going to know to make a difference? And yeah, some of them may be a little more stubborn than others, but it's their job to listen to us. It's their job to hear your voices. And even though you're not voting, you are American citizens, and you have the right, absolute right, to express to them what you want. And our kids do need a stronger voice, and you can be a really, really good example for others in letting them know. And you already are right now. You've raised so much money. Some adults could never even begin to raise that much money. It's amazing what you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you take just a couple minutes, each of you, and just share your best memory from all the fundraising and all the events you've done so far? Each one of you, think of a memory of that time working together that you really, really loved. We'll start with, okay, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, okay. Well, my favorite memory is probably like the day of every
Okay, we're having trouble hearing you. Okay,
Yeah.
so just a second, let's figure out where that's coming from.
Hello.
Okay, Rachel, start again. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. My favorite memory is probably all of, like, the day of the races, like being there and then feeling kind of stressed out because, oh, in like a half hour the runners are gonna come and when we're almost done setting up, what if we're late? Or like, oh, I have to go talk in front of like 300 people. What am I supposed to say? Oh, like, oh, the music is on. We can't start until this. Oh, we can't, like, all the runners are, like, nobody's paying attention to us. We have to get them to, like, talk. Like, those kind of stuff. I like that. Like, just, like, the rush of the day of.
It's exciting, right?
Yeah.
My favorite memory is probably being at the race, doing lemonade stands to raise money for childhood cancer, and just playing with Sam, like rolling balls down the hill with him. It was really fun to just play with him, and we tried to spend every moment that we could with Sam.
My favorite memory would also probably be the day of. I loved it when, walkers would just walk by in our cul-de-sac and just give us money, because it meant a lot to have that happen.
Definitely. And how about you, Erin? Of all the events, what was one of your favorite moments?
Honestly, the day of the event is really hard for me. And I'm pretty honest about that, because as inspiring and happy and hopeful as it is to be a part of something and watch these kids like set an example for other humans. Like, if you want to make a difference, you can. It takes work. It's not easy, but it's a huge commitment. And watching them do it at such a young age and be so successful is awesome. But I hate that we even have to. And I miss Sam tremendously on race day. And I like crash afterwards. I do. My favorite memory of, I have so many of Sam just being able to play. That was a gift that is hard to explain when you're not a parent. What it means for your kid to be accepted by other children and have that experience. And, Sam's life was short and he had friends, and that means a lot. But the other thing that these girls did was inspire me to not give up on With Purpose and to remain hopeful and to see the value of the organization. And, because of that, we've worked with more than 2,000 kids, which is that, the impact that you guys had on me is more than just the event. And so that's my favorite thing. I wish it was event day, but it isn't. It just isn't.
I commiserate with you, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we are getting close to the end, but I wanted to ask each one of you kids another question, and that is, what would you say to Sam if he were watching you right now? Because maybe he is. Let's start with Catherine.
I would say to Sam, like, we love you so much. We just want to make sure, well, we just wanted to help you, and yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would say that, like, we miss you so much. We're doing this for you. We could spend more time with you. Yeah, and I love you, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. And Nicole.
I probably would have said, you know, I love you and I miss you and I miss the memories that we got to have. But I always will cherish them in my heart forever, no matter what.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for sharing.
Thank you.
This is what it's all about. This is what's going to change the future for kids with cancer and deadly disease, as you're helping one another and you're reaching out to others and letting them know how important it is, and there's no reason not to. Is there anything else on anyone's heart that you would like to share with our audience before we wrap up? One more thing. Erin, is there anything you want to share?
I have kind of a bad connection, but you know, the story of Sam that keeps me going is one from close to the end. So you know, it was really his final days, and he was starting to lose the ability to speak in a way that was intelligible. And we were in a room, and there was his hospice nurse was there. You know, we had a stash of morphine on hand, and a bunch of people, right? Sam's family, his cousins. And I knelt down before him and I said, you know, what can I do to make you happy right now, Sam? And he said, I am happy, Mom. And that's like, those words are what get me through every day. And he was right. Like, he was dying and he was happy because he was loved. And so we don't get to pick everything, right? We don't get to pick how or when we die, but we get to pick how we live. And he certainly did. So.
We could not have a better message from you and from all of you kids. Thank you so much for joining me today on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. Again, you are all Rachel Olson, Nicole Olson, and Catherine Thibault. Erin, Benson, you're all Childhood Cancer Talk Radio's Heroes of the Month. And I usually just do the week, but Heroes of the Month for September 2018. I can't wait to have a follow-up with you at some point to hear what you're working on next. Thank you for inspiring our new advocacy group through Jack's Angels Foundation and DIPG advocacy group to reach out to kids, because I really believe that you guys, you're the ones that are going to change the world for your peers. I'm Janet Demeter. I'm host of Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure and where every child's life deserves hope. And you certainly all have given us that today. That's all we have time for. Again, thank you so much. You've blessed us all with your presence today. Thank you from our listeners as well. That's all we got. Jack's Angels Foundation is in part responsible for the show. You can visit jacksangels.org to learn more about our program. But thank you again, all of you, for coming on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having
Janet.
that.
Thank you.
What are we gonna do with the balloons?
Roll down the hill.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You have to take up this from me. Roll down. Roll down.
I am. You're in luck because I am.
Okay.
Okay, there it goes. You think it's gonna pop?
Yeah.
You do? I don't know.
It popped.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That was so wacky.
It popped. It popped.
And I would fly, fly all the way to heaven in the sky where